You were asking the questions for us. And what you found funny, we would find funny as well.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think, again, I was lucky in the timing. You know, I went to my first television was Granada, and I arrived there 1961, 62, and that was the very beginning. It was the Beatles. The Beatles were our resident group. We didn't know they were the Beatles. They didn't know they were the Beatles, for God's sake. Lennon said one day, I'm going to go to London, make a record. When they came back, 50,000 kids came from Manchester with them. And it was the start of that cultural revolution, which allowed people like me who hitherto hadn't been able to get a job as a doorman at the BBC with my accent. 5 years later, we had to have an accent like mine to get a job at the BBC. So that was a profound change that happened in British society. And it was a very, very exciting time to be in Manchester. Manchester was the epicenter of it all. Liverpool provided, if you like, some of the greatest talent, but Manchester was the crucible of it all of it. The actors, the playwrights, the lot was there through Granada Television. And to be there in those days, looking back at it now, I mean, we were unaware what was happening at the time. We were having too good a time. But when you think about it, it was the most remarkable social shift in Britain at that time. It cleared the way for all of today, where you don't have that class-bound thing on television anymore, where everybody with an accent in any part of the media is accepted, and that's a great thing, and that happened then in that moment in time.
And also there was always that feeling again about Granada, going back then and even up to the 70s with Tony Wilson, that they actually put something back into the area.
Yeah, well, I mean, the great thing about Manchester was that it gave you an independent opinion. You know, it wasn't metrocentric, it wasn't about London all the time, about their opinions. It was something North Country, discernibly different. That was a joy of working with The Guardian in the 50s and 60s. I mean, that's exactly what it was, an alternative voice. And that's been missing now for a while, actually. I mean, the demise of Granada is one of the saddest cultural casualties that's ever happened in our society, I tell you. And the demise of local broadcasting stations, too, of the television, what's going to happen to ITV, the local stations, is terrible, because that's where you hear the authentic voice of people. Never mind what's coming out of London. It's there that it matters, and I think it's a terrible and wanton act, I really do. And it saddens me greatly.
I think one of the things I always loved about Manchester, and I don't know about the rest of the North, is there's no such word as euphemism.
No, I tend to say it as it is. No, I loved Manchester. Manchester became my kind of second home, because all my happiest times were spent there. I mean, newspapers, The Guardian was a very happy time for me. And then certainly the best time I ever had in television was in Granada, without a single shadow of a doubt. I went back there recently, and you should never go back, should you? I went to the studio, we'd had such a time, it was such a miserable place. It really was.
Why were you never attracted to Manchester City? I'm not trying to get you in trouble here, Michael.
Well, I did like Manchester City, because, you know, I liked Troutman, and I liked Roy Paul, and I liked the whimsicality of that team. I mean, Bert Troutman was the greatest goalkeeper I ever saw. He had to be, with the defence he played behind him. It's amazing. They were a very whimsical side, but when I was there, that moment in time, when they actually became the dominant force under Malcolm, when they beat United 3-1 at Old Trafford, George broke Lampardo's leg, and having scored a wonderful goal in the first 5 minutes, best he did, and they beat us 3, and that was the time when, for a slight moment in time, the emphasis shifted